Welcome to the Invincible podcast on TV Podcast Industries. This time we're talking about Invincible, Episode 2, Here Goes Nothing.
Where are the Guardians of the Globe? There's been no sign of the iconic heroes for over a week, leaving the local champions to pick up the slack.
Welcome back, boys and girls. Yes, we are here talking about Invincible on the Invincible podcast. We're talking about Invincible Episode 2, Here Goes Nothing, exclusively available on Amazon Prime. And yeah, that was an episode.
Absolutely. We're not paid to say on Amazon Prime, though.
No, we're not. It was literally on the script in front of me and I was just reading it.
I'm really going to try hard to not put things in the script that you just read.
I am Anchorman. I literally am Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman? No, Ron
Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy. I am Ron Burgundy, available on Amazon Prime. See, I'm doing it again. This is there.
I love it. Well, I'm one of your other hosts, Derek. You've just heard Chris there. We're the two hosts for the Invincible podcast on TV Podcast Industries, going straight into our discussion about the second episode of Invincible, the new animated series from Robert Kirkman on Amazon Prime. See, now I'm doing it.
Yeah, see, there you go. See, it's just written right in front of you. You have to.
We hope you've been enjoying what you've been hearing. You can subscribe to the podcast on tvpodcastindustries.com or search, well, hopefully by this stage, Invincible Podcast or TV Podcast Industries, and hopefully you'll pick up the podcast and be with us each week or each time we put out an episode for our discussions on Invincible.
Yes, if you'd like to support us and help keep our producer in caffeine, the hamsters in the wheel, keeping the servers running and the podcasting engines going, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries. And just for $1, we can drip feed Derek with caffeine right into his veins as he produces and edits the show after I just go and take a nap. I don't know. I'm not really good. I'm off script here. This is the problem.
Well, with 5 episodes, I think, coming out this week on TV Podcast Industries, I will need that caffeine. So thank you so much to all of you who've been supporting us on Patreon as well. Let's get straight into this episode. Once again, I'm going to call it out every week because I love the fact that it's mentioned right up front. Invincible, created by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker and Ryan Otley. This episode written by Simon Rakiopa, another executive producer and showrunner for Invincible. So alongside Robert Kirkman, he is one of the showrunners for the show. This episode directed by Jeff Allen, who has done work on Ultimate Spider-Man and Avengers Assemble, to similar in style, I think, animations
yes.
for this, but not similar in tone or content to this show.
Yeah, and definitely a lot more red in the colour palette.
Well, Spider-Man's in Ultimate Spider-Man, and lots of Spider-Men and Spider-People are in that. A lot of them have red costumes, but a different type of red, different shade.
Yes, this is a different shade and more fluid.
Absolutely. Chris, do you want to give us the synopsis for this episode?
Sure. With his father out of action, Mark struggles to defend the city against an interdimensional invasion, joining forces with a team of teenage superheroes.
That's pretty much what goes on in this episode. Another very simple description of what goes on, but pretty much everything that happens in this hour-long episode, right?
Yeah, again, it's weird. It's an hour long. It feels like an hour long, but at the same time, when you break it down to the bare kind of part, you're like, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah. It's the bits in between that matter, though. Exactly.
We're going to discuss it as we did last time with our overall impression of the story and then some of the big moments from the episode that we want to talk about. The story, this episode, I really found this quite refreshing from being a comic book fan and being a fan of comic book TV shows and comic book movies. This idea of having a repeated alien attack over and over again on this planet that they want to conquer. I love it. I absolutely love it. The amount of times you watch a movie or a TV show where the villain gets beaten down and walks away and doesn't come back with the exact same plan, slightly tweaked to take account of what the heroes have done to beat them, is just, it's so regular. It's such a trope in its own way. What I love here is just they have the 3 attacks from the aliens. They come in, they're defeated by old age because time moves differently on Earth. So they come back decades later with these bracelets bracelets that allow them to age at the same rate as they do at home. Then the bracelets get broken, and then they come back to attack again, and basically the team go, we are screwed here. They've taken more decades to come up with a plan that will beat all of us instantly. So I love that idea. I think that's really, really refreshing as a concept for the show.
Yeah, and that's one of this comes again straight rip from the comic books. And these aliens the interdimensional aliens come back and forth. The fun part is it's the trope of, well, why don't they just fix that one problem that stopped them losing last time? Exactly. And they do. And it's only from the saving of Omni-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, that is able to kind of essentially save Earth here. What I did like, and you'll kind of see it, is the chief bad guy of this aliens. He's the one kind of leading the charge towards the end, and they put him in the kind of, he has the regal crown and the cape in the second attack, and then the third he's essentially in his super suit.
Exactly.
Very Lex Luthor.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what I thought. Yeah. That's the Martian Emperor.
Yes.
And if I read my credits correctly, that's played by Digimon Hanzo. A very famous actor, and no English speaking in the role. Genuinely, when you know who it is and you hear the voice, you go, I recognize him from Guardians of the Galaxy, from Captain Marvel. I recognize that voice. Obviously a very famous actor for Amistad and Gladiator as well. So it's quite a recognizable voice once again, but another big heavy hitter to have on the show here, in a role that doesn't really have any discernible vocals.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah. And we are also introduced to, say, for example, Cecil in this episode. And he is voiced by none other than Walter Goggins in this. And you'll know Walter from, like, The Shield, Sons of Anarchy, Justified.
Yeah.
As soon as you hear that voice, you're like, oh my god, they got him. And again, it's just this constant, They either did, well, I suppose when you got Jeff Bezos, when you got Amazon money, you can kind of just go to everyone and go, how much do you want for this? Yeah, okay, a dump truck, 2 dump trucks, sure. Here's 2 dump trucks of money, just back them up to your house, it's fine.
5 hours of work and I can sit in my pants and record at home. Yeah, no problem at all. Absolutely. I absolutely love, you kind of mentioned it there, Chris, as well. Just I love how the finale of this attack happens, how it all closes off. We have the new team, which we'll talk about in a minute, the new kind of Teen Titans, trademark DC. We have those kids trying to do the new fight since we've lost the Guardians of the Globe with Mark. Mark, again, being very powerful as he's fighting against the aliens, does repel them, and the team repel them twice. But in this final moment when Omni-Man comes back after coming out of his coma and takes the fight back to their home world through one of the portals and effectively incinerates, exterminates, and eviscerates this entire planet, is another moment where it feels shocking. It feels like, okay, so he's really that bad. Is he? Is he that bad where he's going, this planet's not for you? Pushing them back to their home planet. Like, I think the final moment you see of Omni-Man in their universe, he's there for a few, maybe years, destroying them all because he grows a full-on beard. That's the indication of passage of time.
Of course, that's how it works.
But the passage of time of me growing a beard would probably be about 20, 30 years up there. Not so much you, Chris. You're about a week, right?
Yeah, sometimes 2 days. But we'll see.
But we see Omni-Man holding a massive, maybe meteorite almost, a massive amount of rock over this planet with some huddled masses below him as he drops the rock onto the planet, effectively destroying this civilization before he comes back to Earth. He's absolutely saying, don't you dare come to my planet and try and take it back. Try and conquer it for your species. Which, if you kind of tie that into our conversation in the last episode, the fact that he is an alien who's taken on Earth as his home planet, and he's now the protector of Earth, may mean something else, is where my idea is going. Because I, again, haven't read all the comic books, but it may mean something else in Omni-Man's head when he says this planet's not for you to take. So I'm intrigued by how that storyline may plan out, but it did seem a massive step to take to go and annihilate a race that was coming to your planet, not just seal off their ability to teleport.
He essentially commits genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see him hit Mach speed as he flies, and he destroys multiple cities, and you're like, okay, he's just destroying a city, that's the army base. And then it pans out, and you see him destroy a continent worth of cities and a space station. And then, as you said, it correctly said, it's basically he's holding an island above his head.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Superman-esque, kind of like lifting. I thought you can kind of like, he's lifting the continent to say, no, he's threatening the scientists below him.
Mm-hmm.
And you see perhaps a kind of evil streak within Omni-Man here.
Mm.
You see a very malicious kind of potentially person, especially what we know from why he was recovering. He has just killed the Guardians of the Globe.
Absolutely.
And is telling people he doesn't know what happened. He was attacked. Yeah. So he's lying. Question is why?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just seems the brutality is what's surprising here. On the other side of it, we do hear some of the kind of totals of people who've been killed in the initial attacks as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. Again, if you had something like the Avengers with the attack on New York, it's like, they cleared the streets. So when the aliens attacked, nobody really died, and it was just property damage. So that's fine. Whereas here we see this initial battle with the superhero crew and Mark. 338 people died in that initial attack. Like, that's the initial one when they arrived and died within 10 minutes. How many more people are being wiped out as this race come in and march into the city? I thought that was really interesting. That there's so much destruction going on from these from all of these battles, I suppose. So it's a real kind of stakes here, not like the standard cartoon of don't worry, nobody's getting hurt. Your superheroes will save you.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons I do love Invincible as a comic book. There was never that golden halo of no one is dying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you basically, when an alien attacks New York City or the main city, they're opening portals and they are shooting. People are going to die.
Yeah.
The other amazing bit is the old lady, Dolores, that Invincible tries to save, and as he is shot from the air, the impact, he is invincible to a degree. She's not. She's human. So she has gone from him picking her up and trying to save her to essentially he has caused her that impact has broken multiple bones.
Mm-hmm.
And you see her leg and her arm are all kind of, like she is like kind of lying. It's very prone and still.
Yeah.
And he gets her to the GDA's the facility.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, like towards the end of this episode, we find she's dead. She passed away.
Yeah, I hope you watch the full episode before you listen to this podcast.
Well, we kind of hope that. Yeah,
absolutely. But again, it's that question for Mark of, my dad didn't tell me about these things. He didn't get the opportunity to train me how you deal with the ones you lose in battle. Effectively, he being a superhero is like going to war. There should be some form of training that he gets, other than hop up in the air. This is how you land, and now you can throw things really far. That's kind of all he's had, and he's expected to go out and have these battles. So another interesting little string to the bow there for Mark as well. Anything else about the overall story there, Chris? We've got a couple of more points to talk about, but any other of that kind of central story of the aliens attacking Earth? Anything else you want to talk about?
Just the one I love is Mark's mum in this. When Mark comes and goes, "Oh my God, Mum, I don't know how to tell you. Dad's in another universe. He flew in to save them." And "Oh, that's all? Oh, it's fine. Okay. He'll be back. He'll just be a bit late for dinner." And it's that reaction, which is, if you've been married to quote like Omni-Man, Superman analogous, you are Lois Lane. You're not going to worry every time he gets thrown into an interdimensional portal. Absolutely. Because it's happened so many other times.
Yeah.
He always gets his way back to you.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's another kind of mention back in episode 1 as well. She, when Mark's freaking out about the attack on the White House, and she responds to him saying, "Oh, we probably rebuild the White House twice a year at this stage." So in this world, especially being married to a superhero, she probably has a lot of experiences that he's never had as well. Good call out, Chris. I wanted to just put this into a point, our next point, just purely because at the end of last episode, I knew the Guardians of the Globe couldn't possibly be alive. But they do this thing at the start of this episode which makes you think, could they be alive? So our next point is really, are the Guardians of the Globe alive? And my answer is no, they are not. They are absolutely not alive here from the start of this episode. There's an investigation that kicks off into the deaths of the Guardians of the Globe, but I was really interested about what was going on with this new crew, this new team, the GDA, who come in to clear up the bodies of the Guardians and have lots of technology that protects the head and preserves the bodies. But I presume if they will come back in the future, and I don't know, and I'm not going to ask Chris to spoil that for me, but if they do come back in the future, they're effectively going to be zombies of some sort, where they piece their bodies back together, maybe staple them and reanimate their corpses, because they still looked pretty dead after being taken away. But maybe that's how you run a super team. Maybe maybe you piece them together from various parts.
Maybe. You can make not just one you could make, instead of Guardians of the Globe, you can make the Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could work.
One Guardian with all of these body parts.
A single Guardian out of all the pieces left. For those who have not read the comic books, this is a question. You do not know what is happening. Those who read the comic book know, and I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Those who haven't, this is fun. This is them essentially putting a question mark there for you. Yeah. Going, is this something, etc.? Is this, could they, because they like you said, they don't say they have a pulse or anything like that, but they do pick up the body of the immortal and kind of pick up the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, there's also a smush, because the best is the medics vomit based on the violence and the gore. I say the best. I just find it quite funny.
They like vomit in the show. We did see that back with Red Rush in episode 1 as well, when he ran some of the civilians away from White House, and everybody starts to vomit, and once one starts, everybody starts, including Red Rush, which I thought was a good little gag as well in episode 1. But we're also introducing this scene to Damien Darkblood as well, a really interesting character. It seems like a demon. I was thinking Hellboy mixed with Rorschach from Watchmen, in the way that he speaks. There seems to be those elements that are kind of mixed in there, and he's an investigator who seems to know a lot more than he's letting on. He seems to be able to follow trails that anybody else can't follow, possibly because of the mystic side of him. I really like this because mysticism in comics is something that I've always really enjoyed. This kind of magic element, this kind of, again, a Hellboy type character is an interesting character to bring into what seems like a straightforward superhero show when we started watching it in episode 1. So having this character come in and kind of be able to see things that other people can't see, I think is a really interesting touch.
I love this character. Mm-hmm. And yes, that is exactly who they kind of play on it being. He's essentially a demon who is able to stop himself going back to hell by solving crimes and getting justice.
Love it.
That's it. So he's basically, he doesn't want to go home, so he does this to stop himself going back to hell.
Excellent. And played by Clancy Brown, another great actor. We know him from Highlander and Starship Troopers, of course. I think he played Detroit Become Human last year, Chris.
Yeah.
He was a central role in that, the human role in Detroit Become Human. Or he might be a central role, depending on how you played that game. I think he probably is a central role for the whole game. It's one of those games that if you get something wrong, a character may disappear forever. But great to hear his voice in here. I think he's got a really strong voice for this role as well. But I really do like his character of Damien Darkblood. I like this idea, and I like what they're doing with him. But does he work for the GDA, this new organization that we learn about in episode 2, Chris? He kind of is. He seems to be working for them. Cecil and Goggins seem to be the ones that are giving him direction or telling him that he has to investigate this. But in general, you were saying that he investigates cases to stay out of hell. So is this just another case he's picking up?
Yeah, pretty much. He likes to right the wrongs. I think Ghost Rider-esque. Okay. There's an element there. He rights wrongs kind of piece.
See, now you got me thinking Hulk in the 70s TV show, but that's just me because I'm old.
Yeah, well, except he doesn't have the sad music while walking down the road.
Why not? Maybe you'll get that next episode. You know?
Yeah, exactly. No, the GDA is an interesting one, and it comes across. If they are playing the way I assume they are playing, similar to the comics, it will come across more and more later. Mm-hmm. The GDA is the government. It is this global government agency that works with all the superhumans to essentially aid them in their superhumaning, like superheroing, I should say, as well. It puts them back together. It looks after them to a degree, helps them get around because it by itself knows the government, a single government or multiple governments cannot police the supervillains and cannot be there for kaiju attacks and stuff like that. So it works with the superheroes or the superhumans to essentially superhero. So that's why Darkblood is sounds like he's working for them as well, and that's why Cecil, as essentially the head of the GDA, is able to do this. Right.
And they I suppose. We don't know where anybody stands at the moment as the story goes on. We don't really know who the good and bad people are. We're only 2 episodes into the show. So having them set a surveillance team on the Grayson household does seem a little bit odd without telling the Graysons as well that they're under surveillance, as we see in the post-credit scene for this episode. So yeah, I guess we'll learn lots more about the GDA in the coming episodes. It seemed pretty central to the show.
Yeah.
Talking about new crews. Everything's new. It's only 2 episodes in, but talking about new crews, let's talk quickly about Invincible's new super crew that he meets. Some great characters here on the aptly and appropriately named Teen Team. Not very imaginatively named Teen Team, though, are they?
It's a bit on the nose. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
To everything, like, they even live in a big tower. They live in a bridge. That is their secret base.
Right.
Bar basically living in a big office block with the letter T. They are essentially the Teen Titans.
Absolutely.
To the Guardians of the Globe, who are the Justice League.
Yeah.
It's a good introduction. Okay, so the Guardians of the Globes are very like the Justice League. These guys are, in name only, really the Teen Titans. Like, you've got a guy you got Rexplode, who is fantastically voiced by Jason Mantzoukas. As soon as I heard him, I was like, okay, that's perfect casting.
Right.
You then get Duplicate, which is a great, you got Robot by Zachary Quinto, who that was one I was, that was an interesting choice.
Oh, really?
Because he plays. It's so. Do you remember him in Heroes as Sylar?
I do kind of, but I more remember him as Spock in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. So I very much saw the logical Spock in that voice that he was doing. It's like the perfect voice for a robot. It's what it seems like. And he's the leader of the crew, it seems, the robot character. So maybe he's the one that named them the Teen Team with a little imagination.
Maybe. It's there's just too much menace in the voice.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just it's kind of this, I suppose it's that robotic voice. It's that you are what you eat.
Or
yeah, exactly, that's it. There's no humanity behind the voice.
I didn't know where Chris was going with "you are what you eat," listeners, so I decided to cut him off halfway through what he was saying. But I really like this team, and this seems like the team we're probably going to see more of throughout the season. We're probably going to spend more time with this team than we would with most other characters as they set up for the show. I suppose it feels like these are the characters we're going to see. We also have Atom Eve, who is one of Mark's schoolmates, Eve. So, played by Gillian Jacobs, from Community, ably and wonderfully played by her. I love her voice. I think she's really cool. So I'm really happy that we have her in here. But again, we have the dynamic that you would see in most animated shows. We have a little love interest being introduced for Mark, in episode 2 here, for a member of the superhero team.
But unfortunately, she's taken.
Of course.
She is with Rexplode. And that's, it's the fun. It's the, you're in love with the new girl, but she's got this a-hole of a boyfriend. So it's this kind of, it's going to be this fun juxtaposition as like Mark is still trying to learn the ropes of being a superhero.
Absolutely.
Going on flights with Adam Eve, as she kind of teaches him not to freeze. But then you're going to get Rexplode essentially rubbing his face in it, calling him Iceberg.
Exactly. So you do have kind of the jock versus the nerd kind of element to these characters, which is always fun to watch in a show. Of course, especially when you have the jock character, the person that you don't get on with most in Rexplode, going out with the girl that he wants to go out with. So I kind of like that too. A good crew of characters. I suppose good powers, which is what you really want from your superhero team. But he does he does hold his own here, Mark. You know, he is to just show off his power. He is a very powerful hero, even though he doesn't have the training already. So that's quite cool.
And we see him go Rage Monster in the second fight, where he essentially he taps into something and essentially just kind of is able to he hulks out, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, as you said, he holds his own, and over time, he is able to he turns that fight for them. And yeah, he's going to be a good addition to the teen team.
Absolutely. Any differences from the comic book that you want to call out for the teen team? Anybody changed? Anybody massively different from what we'd see in the comic books?
No, nothing. This is essentially the team that we are introduced to in the beginning of the comic books as well, as is. Because it's a comic book, I voiced them potentially different in my brain.
Right, yeah.
So they sounded different in my brain.
Well, of course. They all sound like your voice.
Well, yeah, but I put on accents as I do it. So,
if your accents are anything like your singing, Chris, I can understand that.
Oh, God, they were terrible. I'm not even going to lie. So Jason Mantzoukas as Rexplode is more cocky and jockey than I had in my head.
Right.
But I can see as soon as the team started to kind of fight and form together and we got these scenes of the alien battles, I could see how it worked. It worked perfectly. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. That it overall for the episode, the main points about episode 2?
I think so.
Excellent. Any other notes about the episode? Anything we haven't called out?
No, not really. It's just, this for me was pivotal. This is a pivotal part of the comic books. This could have been done slightly shorter, maybe.
Okay.
But I'll talk more about that in my defense.
Right. Excellent. Just one call out for me because I thought the tie-in for episode 1 I thought was hilarious, which is the garbage bag from the Burger Mart when Mark discovers that he has powers in episode 1. It basically throws a garbage bag into the sky. And probably about a week later, the security guard that we saw from the White House in episode 1 is now touring Europe. He's over in the UK, standing outside Buckingham Palace, and the same garbage bag lands on him and his son's head. Yeah. And it's turned into this sweet moment between him and his stepson, where his stepson calls him dad for the first time. I just thought it was a really funny moment to tie it in with that first episode, that this bag could have been possibly traveling around the world a few times before it landed in the UK and happened to land on the head of the security guard. Fun little touch there.
It's these again. These are the little touches that you can see Robert Kirkman in. Mm-hmm. You can see that humor from The Walking Dead, from Invincible, the comic books. You can see in. I say that now, and we're probably going to turn out it was one of the other writers.
Probably. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, with that, Chris, do you defend Invincible episode 2? Here goes nothing.
Yes, I do. But, as I kind of alluded to, this is a great introduction to the characters, to the extended actors within Mark's realm.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It's also an additional interaction and kind of introduction to the ferocity and the violence of Omni-Man, that we got a taste of in the end of episode 1. This potentially could have been shortened,
right,
in my mind, slightly. So it kind of then started to. This was the episode. All of episode 1, I didn't touch my phone. Episode 2, I found myself. I didn't actually take my phone out and open Twitter, but my hand did reach once or twice, because it just, the pacing slowed a bit.
Okay.
So it was interesting for me. I was like, again, there's an element of burden of knowledge, which we talk about in a lot of our comic book things, where because we know some of the source material, we think we know where it's going to go. So my assumption was, on some of the things, I knew where it was going to go.
Like, I don't need to watch this. I know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. Right. But then at the same time, like, no, they may do something different, so put the phone down. Absolutely. But again, my hand reached.
And Derek is going to quiz you if you don't watch the episode. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, do you remember this one bit? And I'm like, no. Yes, I do.
What do you mean a garbage bag?
Yeah. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Derek, do you defend this episode of Invincible, episode 2?
I do defend this episode. I really enjoyed this one. As I say, the feeling of that alien attack being repeated over and over again until they get it right. Brilliant. What a great idea. And the introduction to all these new characters with some great voice actors behind them. You know, I feel comfortable in the hands of the team now. We had the first episode, which gives you that kind of shock. Here you are, you're in this universe now. This is very different from what you thought you were going to get. And this episode feels much more like, okay, here we are now. Here's all the people that you're going to be watching each episode from here on. I think they did a really good job introducing them and having that central idea of this wave after wave of alien enemies coming in and fighting until they win. But they don't, because Omni-Man is going to commit genocide to anybody who tries to do that kind of stuff on his planet, which I thought was really interesting. So, still intrigued, still like the build up of this mystery with the addition of an investigator, I suppose, somebody that may get to the bottom of it and find out that actually Omni-Man was the one that killed the Guardians of the Globe. So, wondering how that will play out if we see that twist, I suppose, as the episodes go on. If they do learn the truth about Omni-Man, what does that do? So, really like this episode.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this has brought us to the end of episode 2 of our review of episode 2, or our discussion on episode 2. You can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industry, where you can support us and tell us for just $1 how much you love us. Or you can head on to any good or evil, flying or garbage bag crashing podcast catcher around the globe and subscribe there, like and share, do all the things, leave a review. Make sure you do subscribe if you want to ensure that you get episode 3, 4, 5 and all the other fantastic shows we are doing, like Pennyworth over on our Gotham podcast feed, or over here, continue also on our main feed, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is coming out tomorrow, episode 2. It is fantastic. It airs on Friday, but we record on the Saturday. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yes, Disney Plus is an amazing show. Mm-hmm. But you can wait right here. And later today, we'll be back with our discussion of episode 3 of Invincible. Who you calling ugly?
Excellent. Yes, thanks so much for joining us for this episode. We'll be back with episode 3 of Invincible later on today. Talk to you next time.
Talk to you soon. Keep watching, keep listening, and keep flying through portals.
But don't commit genocide on the other side.
Sorry, yes.
Very important.
Keep watching, keep listening, and keep not committing genocide.
Yes, keep not committing genocide.
Yes,
we assume that that's where we are. Yes. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time. Bye.